Hi guys, today we're going to be doing a little bit of a different video. So I have a subscriber who was wanting me to answer a few questions for them when it comes to Crested gecko care. So I figured what I will do is I'm going to walk you guys around my room, kind of show you, which I kind of can show you right now. So this is my room right here. You've got closet, more reptiles. You've got reptiles over here, and then you've got reptiles over here. And then over here, more reptiles. So yes, my room is pretty much all reptiles, and then over here is my cat condo. Cat stuff is like down here. Stuff in the closet. So yeah, we got all sorts of fun stuff in this room. This room pretty much does not belong to me anymore. It belongs to my animals, and I just live here. So anyway, whoop, Blossom's eating food right now, so I don't want to step on his tail. I'm going to go ahead and switch the camera around, and then I will start to begin answering some of the questions that this subscriber, which was Reptile Blog, had about her Crested gecko. And I also have some great tips for you to use, which, not of course trying to be rude or nasty or anything, of course, because that is definitely not me, for your leopard geckos, because I used to have a leopard gecko. Sadly, I only had her for about 3 years, and she ended up getting this weird condition. It was very strange. She was in a 20-gallon long tank. She had a hot hide on the very far right side of the tank. She had a cold hide on the very far right or far left side of the tank. And then in the center she had a humid hide. She also had a lay box so she could do some digging and stuff just in case she were to lay eggs or anything, because female leopard geckos and crested geckos, when they reach maturity, they will lay eggs. They'll be duds. They're not going to be fertile or anything, but they will lay eggs. So you always want to provide somewhere, even if you have paper towels or tile as a bedding, you do want to provide a type of lay box that has at least 2 inches of soil of some sort, whether it be the eco earth or it can be the jungle plantation soil or whatever that they make for frogs. Either or. It's always a good idea to provide, if you know that you have a female of crested gecko or leopard gecko, a lay box. That way they can comfortably lay their eggs and they don't just have to lay them on their paper towels, because it's more natural for them to dig. So anyway, I will go ahead and get on with the video. Okay, so the first question that I was asked, of course, which I've already kind of gone over it with you a little bit, but the first question was temperature and humidity and stuff, and we'll just kind of visit Snickers while we're over here. This is Snickers' tank. It's all decked out and whatnot. I do kind of still want to get something like a little plant that's about like this tall. I've seen some at the pet store to put in the center here, just so she has something here to kind of block her area she likes to lay there, just to offer a little bit more privacy. But with crested geckos, like I was telling you, you do want to mist once a night. That way they are offered not only a little bit of a boost of humidity, but available drinking water if you're not offering a water dish with fresh water. Now with my younger adult geckos like these guys here, I currently am waiting for a little elevated dish holder to come in the mail. So the ones that are older now and are not young and are at risk of drowning are going to be getting elevated water dishes, and I'll of course show you that when I go to the adult tank to give you an idea what that looks like. It's a little bit more natural for them to have an elevated dish to drink from than it being on the ground. Also, less chance of them pooping in it or getting soil in it if it's elevated versus being on the ground of the tank. So temperature-wise, as you can see over here, this tank, I have no heating, no nothing. None of my tanks have heating at all when it comes to the crested geckos, because heat normally is never needed unless your house is at constantly 68 degrees or below. They can tolerate 68, it's just not as good for younger babies when they are needing more heat to grow. But I would never suggest using a heat mat or a heat bulb. It's a lot cheaper to just close your vents and kind of keep your doors closed to the room most of the time to try to conserve that heat that's in the room. Like with me, my room is naturally hot during the summer because it is poorly insulated. It is the worst insulated room in the house because it's the oldest. So my room is constantly warm. Like you can see those tanks over there, 73, 72. Over here, these ones are at 71 and 70. So you can see these are those thermostats and hygrometers I was telling you about. They're from Pangea. They look like this. They tell temperature and humidity. You always want to have the probe at the middle of the tank so that you can see what it actually is in the middle. If you have it at the bottom, it's always going to be more humid than it actually is towards the top. And temperature, always heat always rises, so the temperature is going to be a little bit different up here than it is down here, so it's always a good idea to keep it towards the middle. That way you kind of have a basic idea of what's going on in the tank. So we'll walk over here, and we'll go to the adult tank. So as you can see, this is what I was talking about, and these I got off of Etsy.com, and I believe they were $7, and they are 3D printed plastic, and they're a little elevated ledge with just suction cups, and you can buy these little dishes here. I got mine at Sam's. I use these dishes for water as well as for feeding, and I just have them hanging there. I think 2,000 of these cost like $23 or $25, something like that. You obviously don't have to buy them in that big of a bulk, but at Sam's everything's in bulk, so, you know. But here is one of my adult crested geckos, just to give you an idea of how big your little gecko is going to get in the future. Now, Ember is an inch bigger than normal geckos, so that might not be this big when he or she gets older, but you can see that Ember is quite large. And I, of course, will show my male as well, because females most of the time are going to be a lot bigger. They have to have larger bodies to be able to support the eggs. So normally they're going to be a lot larger. There are a few males that are big, but most of the time, like I said, most of the time girls are going to be a little bit larger. So I'll go ahead and put her back in here. So when it comes to how to keep your room warm during the winter, I use an infrared heater. And I'm pretty sure that I got them at Walmart. I think it was maybe $59. Now, this is only a concern if your room is very cold during the winter. My mom normally keeps our house at about 72 in the winter. And personally, that's not warm enough, because in here, sometimes because it is the worst insulated room in the house, my room can sometimes get down to like 65. So I have to have an infrared heater to make sure that the room itself is warm enough. Now, infrared heaters means that there's no spark, there's no actual burning of any kind of gas. It's literally just little bars getting warmed up with electricity and whatnot. I don't really know how to describe it that well, because my dad's a little bit more knowledgeable about that kind of stuff than I am, but he told me it's the safest one you can get that is running all the time. And what's nice about it is it has a thermostat built in, so it will turn off and turn on accordingly if it needs to. So here is Magma. He is my male crested gecko. So you can see here, if I put him on my leg, he is a lot smaller than Ember. So this is not always a good way to tell if you have a male or female, which at this age, it's going to be pretty noticeable if they're a boy or not. But males are normally just going to have a smaller body than females. So I'll go ahead and put him back in here. And there is what his ledge looks like. His actually has 2 holes for a food and water, but I only provide fresh water because I hand feed, which means I get them out and feed them individually just to make sure that they're getting food. So right here is my infrared heater. This is what it looks like. It's very plain and simple. It has these buttons here on the front. Of course, this is power. These adjust the temperature. This thing is really nice, and like I said, I think it was maybe like $50 or $60 at Walmart, which does sound like a lot of money, but it's literally a one-time purchase. Like, you only use it in the winter, or when it's really cold in the room. It turns off and turns on by itself to the temperature you set it at. So it's a really good deal, in my opinion, to invest in something like this if you live in a state where it gets really cold all the time. So, next we'll talk about temperatures during the day, because that was a question that came up. Most of the time, as long as your room is between 70 and 77 degrees, it really does not matter if it's warm or cold during the day or during the night, as long as it's in that range. Because most of the time in my room, it's always going to be around 72 to 73, no matter if it's during the day or during the night. Sometimes in the daytime, it will get to around 75 to 76, but I normally have my vent cracked open a teeny bit with the ceiling fan going on low just to keep the air circulating, because you don't want it to be really stagnant. That way that the humidity kind of gets burned a little bit. So you can see, like in this tank right now, 60% humidity, which is perfectly fine. You come over here to the other part of the room, 52%. So as long as you're letting that dry out period during the day, which helps if you have a ceiling fan. If not, it's not the end of the world. But it definitely helps to kind of circulate air in that room so that stuff does not get super humid. Because you want it to be around 50 to 60% during the day and about 80 to 100% at night. They're going to be more active during the evening. They're going to be getting drinks. They're going to be shedding, all that good stuff. It just needs to be a little bit more humid. I will put out there that, of course, like I was saying, I would definitely suggest Pangea or Repashy for a food, because Flukers is not a good enough diet, it's not nutritious enough, and it does not have the proper vitamins and stuff put in there that the other ones are going to offer. I definitely would suggest switching to that if you can. I understand if it's going to be a little bit more difficult to get it, but Petco and PetSmart, I'm pretty sure, carry Repashy, so that one would be easy for you to get a hold of. Now that we've kind of covered the few basics, and I'll show you my cat real quick. This is Blossom. He's my sweetie boy. He is my last indoor cat that I have left, and sorry if I keep looking over here because I'm looking at this hair on my hand. Anyway, real quick, I will put out there, this was not a question that you asked, but I will put it out there. Feeding wise with your baby gecko, normally at the size that he or she is at, you'll probably want to be feeding every other day. That way they're getting enough food, but you're not feeding them so often that they're not hungry. And I did see, I haven't watched all of the video yet, but I did see the little video that you did where it was like a little tank tour and you made like that little homemade food dish holder. And while that's a really good idea, I don't know if it'll stay elevated up there or not, because if they go to jump on it, it might knock it down. So I just wanted to warn you about that one. But you probably already have figured that out on your own. But yeah, feeding wise, I would suggest probably trying to do once every other day, which is, so yeah. Now I'll kind of give you a little bit of suggestions with your leopard gecko, and again, it's not like I'm trying to bash you or say you're doing terrible, because I'm not. Literally we all began somewhere, so I will find some pictures that used to be my tank setup just to give you an idea. You obviously don't have to do Eco-Earth because I wasn't aware when I had mine that Eco-Earth actually is not that good to use as substrate for leopard geckos unless they're an adult, because they're less likely to eat the bedding then, but when they're younger, it's definitely not suggested. Kind of like with crested geckos, when they're really young, it's not suggested to use loose soil until they get older. Anyway, with leopard geckos, they should have at least 2 hides, which would be a hot hide on the hot side of the tank and a cool hide on the cool side of the tank, so they can choose what their temperature wants to be. And then they should have a humid hide, which should have a type of moss in it, and that pretty much helps them when they're shedding to go in there, and you can easily even make it out of a Tupperware container. It's pretty much just a little Tupperware container. Let me grab one real quick. Pretty much a little container like this, and you can, Blossom, you can go to the dollar store and get like 4 of these for $1. You just cut a hole in the front and cover the hole with tape so that it's not sharp, and then you just put moss in there. That's pretty much all you have to do. And that just provides them with somewhere where they can go if they need to shed, which most of the time is the only time they're going to be using it, or if it's really dry in your house. But I would definitely suggest having more than 1 hide in your leopard gecko tank, which of course I have no clue. I haven't watched, hold on a second. Of course, I have not watched your full video and stuff. I haven't seen the leopard gecko's tanks with all the stuff in it. But I would definitely suggest, if you do not have a second hide for both of the geckos, like if they each don't have a second hide, I would definitely suggest investing in something like that. You can even go to the dollar store and make a hide out of that same little Tupperware container I was showing you. Yes, it's not the most aesthetically pleasing, but they do like to have more than just one place to hide. And I would definitely suggest using a heat mat if you aren't already for them, because heat lamps just really dry the air out. And with leopard geckos, they absorb heat through their stomachs to be able to digest their food. And of course, they are insectivores, which I'm sure you already know, since you did mention that your mom has a bearded dragon, so I'm sure that you already probably have like dubias or crickets or something around, or even mealworms. But yeah, and of course where I saw you had the calcium dish, so good on you for having that, because a lot of people don't know that you're supposed to have calcium offered for them 24/7, so that's a good idea that you have that. But yeah, I would just suggest just making a few little tiny changes, nothing big. And like I said, you don't have to get a hide that is specifically for a reptile. You can custom make one, like with the storage totes or storage containers, or you can even go to like craft stores, and they have like ceramic birdhouses, and like they have little ceramic teapots and stuff, because I have some cute stuff that I've bought at craft stores that I use for my crested geckos as little hides. They work just fine, and they're less expensive than ones that are marketed for reptiles. So I just wanted to throw that out there. Otherwise, they look like they are good. I will give you a few handling tips because I saw you were a little nervous when you went to pick up one of your leopard geckos, which is fine. But they can sense that you're nervous, and I know this because I have a snake. And when I first got my snake, he was constantly trying to bite me because he knew that I was nervous and scared to hold him. And you have to kind of just go in there and be like, okay, be confident in yourself and know that, you know, I'm going to be able to adjust and get used to handling these guys, and they're going to also get used to me being, you know, holding them and stuff. So, but yeah, I just wanted to throw those few tips in there for you. Of course, like I said, they're just suggestions, so hopefully you found this video helpful. Thanks for watching, and have a good rest of your day.